We're waiting. Right now it's telling me we're starting live, but there's nobody here yet. But in the recording, I always find this silence a bit awkward. So it has started and people are jumping on. So welcome, Stand Up Paddle community. So glad you're here. We're excited for our Thursday, 1 p.m. Pacific time interview. As always, another amazing person in this whole realm of water sports and stand-up and so much crossover, but super excited to have April Zilg on today. I am going to see if I can find her, but just a few reminders. We have a Facebook group that we follow up with, so there'll be pictures and any links to anything that we talk about. So want to make sure that if you haven't had a chance, please join us there. That also is a place to find out who the next interview is next Thursday. But without further ado, I'm going to bring on and she's here. I love this. Yay!
Hey,
There
I'm
you
here.
are. I saw you. I was sorry. I should have given you a heads up. Got to do a little preview stuff. Thanks, SupConnect, for letting me do this. I'm Kristen Thomas, and you're April, and we're so glad you're here.
Yay.
April, especially because April just moved across the country. I've
I
given
know.
her no time. In fact, they closed on a house. That's their brand new house.
Yeah, it's my laundry room where the Wi-Fi router is.
Whatever works, right? For these live things. Hey, that's a cool laundry room, actually.
I know,
I
it's
thought
nice,
you'd have a
right? Take
wall
care of
right
our
behind you.
laundry.
Way better than mine. But April is, I so admire this woman because nothing against many of our interviews, people who have just grown up with water sports as just in their blood and part of what they do. But you have really built yourself into this amazing water woman. So much to talk about you as an athlete, as a coach. I mean, you share so much. You're so studied and knowledgeable about so many different things. And then we've also shared lots of fun times in different places. So
Definitely.
lots of places to go with this conversation. We'll keep it somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour. So no here or there. Definitely a couple questions came up on earlier posts and people
Excellent.
who are here. Thanks for joining us. And you're welcome to ask questions too. It's a little bit tricky the way it scrolls by, but we'll really try to catch what's going on and be able to ask April because she is full of knowledge. So I like to always start with just kind of what's your stand-up paddle story. As we know, stand-up hasn't been around that long, but how'd you get into it?
So, yeah, I do. I actually tell this story a whole lot because me and my now husband, we were on vacation down in Florida. We were visiting a friend, and the friend's neighbor brought out a stand-up paddleboard and said, "Hey, you got to try this new thing." I think this was back in 2011 or 12, and I tried it, and I absolutely loved it. And I looked right at, my boyfriend at the time, and I
Yeah.
said, "I'm buying one of these as soon as I get home." And he goes, "No, you're not." And sure enough,
Sorry, yes, I am.
as I am. Monday went by. I found a board on Craigslist. I actually do think it was a tandem surfboard. It was 25 inches wide. It didn't float me very well. It was a horrible stand-up paddleboard, truth be told. It might have been a good tandem surfboard, but I'm not sure. I thought I was moving really fast, and I entered the Carolina Cup the very first year they ever had it.
There's a
so
race
actually,
to start
yeah,
with. Wow.
so this year is the 10-year anniversary of the Carolina Cup, but it's not. There was the year it was the mullet run. So they're counting this as the 10th anniversary, but it's actually the 9th.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Because it was called the mullet run.
Yes.
Are you doing that? I don't know if John's with us, but
I know. So I'm pretty sure this is actually the 9th annual Carolina Cup because my first would have been in 2011. And I didn't even finish the race. I had to drop out. I couldn't even finish. I was holding my paddle backwards.
I love that. But we also love just having been in the industry. We worry sometimes about people having bad experiences with maybe not the best equipment, but you and I are ones who definitely went the frugal route and still loved
Definitely.
it, and it didn't ruin us. So it is good. Sometimes people do just start with that because you start where you start. And I heard a lot of people early started with tandem surfboards, but they were very narrow. So that the balance thing was
very,
because they weren't built for what they were being used for.
not at all. But now as the race boards get narrower and narrower, I find myself, I'm kind of able to push that envelope a little because my learning curve and I guess just my baseline is much much different than a lot of people's.
Yeah. Well, you were well loved, and so you were raised in North Carolina. You are now back in North Carolina, but we got you in California for a while, even though you were 4 hours up the coast. So I like to think of you as bi-coastal, and I think you've gotten a lot out of being in both places.
So
Um,
much,
so
definitely.
so stand-up paddling, surfing, none of that before 2011 was part of your life.
None. I mean, if beer drinking was going to be a professional sport, I think I would have been able to definitely hold my own. I was just kind of the freshman 15 got me, and freshman 20, freshman continue on. I had just fallen off, I guess. I mean, I was never even athletic back in high school. I tried out for different sports teams, and I never made any of them. Um, Especially like
Wow.
softball, cheerleading. I was always, there's like the list. You'd go run to see if you made the team, and I was always like, wah, wah. I never made any team for anything. I was never athletic. I was always like the brainy, nerdy kid. I actually hung out with the goth kids with my really big pants and the chains and the skulls on the. Oh, and I love Marilyn Manson. Oh my God. Still like me some Manson once in a while.
Love
But
that.
yeah, athletics didn't come naturally for me. And then I was overweight and I was unhealthy and I had a bit of a health scare, and I wanted to get healthy, and jogging. I don't know if you've tried that. It's horrible. Who wants to do that? Well, and honestly, now that I'm back in the South, the humidity is about 99% today. And oh my goodness, you walk outside and it's instant sweat. And
Yeah.
I already miss California and that dry, it's just warm and sunny and nice all day. And I'm back here, I'm like, oh, this is why I didn't jog.
Well,
It's flat and
it is
boring.
foggy if it makes you feel any
Oh,
better.
okay, just a little.
It's
I
not
do.
sunny.
I was always sad it was a little gray there, but definitely, there's certain things that I didn't get into, and now that I'm back here, I kind of
Hmm.
understand. So I definitely ran a lot more when I was in California, which helped, I think, with my paddling performance. So now that I know that, it's a bummer because now I have to run here in North Carolina in the humidity
Mm.
anyway because I know it's going to make me a better paddler.
Well, I just ran this morning, and running isn't my cardio
Of
training
choice.
of choice, but it's
Nope.
what I'm doing during these COVID times because I usually do spin or something else. But regardless, I think maybe, I mean, I'm sorry that you had to work so hard and that you had, but I think it's a benefit to all of us because, again, as you know, a smart person, I just have had these amazing conversations with you. You know so much about technique and training and nutrition, and I know you're working on building a lot of those things. And I think that's it's been so amazing to watch you. I started racing in 2010, so I think we crossed paths a couple of times at races. Where you were just building. So to watch your progress has just been exciting and so, so fun to watch. In the last few years, you've just been phenomenal, both in stand-up paddling. And one thing that I think is really cool is that you came from stand-up paddling into outrigger. We've had a lot of people kind of come the other way, and there is so much crossover there in the stroke technique and strength and all those things. And you work with Danny Ching, who I saw is on, Danny, who we all, love,
Hey.
and like most people try to emulate his stroke. He just has such a gorgeous stroke that comes from outrigger. But you in California were just killing it on the OC1 the last couple of seasons. So super fun. I mean, I guess let's talk about races first. Race highlights in the last few years. I love the picture that we used of you, like you're blurry, you're going so fast at an APP race. So you're doing that circuit. You've done just a lot
Yeah.
more. People are saying hello, Veronica. I don't know who Fat Grass Surfer is, but there's
That's
a
Austin
nickname. Okay,
from
hey Austin,
Fayetteville. Nice.
the Manila
Um,
Gorilla, one of your many nicknames.
yes. Races, my goodness. There's so many. I know we were talking the other day. My first race I ever traveled to by plane, and this was a big deal for me because I hadn't done a lot of travel up until that point, was the H2O Summer Series out in Utah, and there was a
Yeah.
whitewater component and that lake component, and it was next to the outdoor retailer show, which hindsight, I wish I had gone to that. I've never been to outdoor retailer, but it looks
Hmm.
like a really awesome time. And no, fast forward, I think I was like 7th or 8th place. You creamed me. You
Oh,
annihilated
stop
me
it.
in that H2O race. Yes, you did. You were always in front of me. My first year racing, you smoked me in every race we
Well,
did.
I've been racing a couple of years, and
I
that's
know.
those days are long, long, long gone.
It
we
was
also
awesome.
we also had a sup skateboard race, which none of us had ever tried. I don't think you and I and Terry Plunkett.
So yeah, the land paddle
Land paddle.
race. I went home. Oh, so and we'll get into this a little bit more later. I'm such a cheapskate. They were selling those big the big skateboards and the land paddles, and I took one look at it and I was like, oh well, I'm gonna go home and make this myself. And I did. I found a giant bamboo stick and some tennis balls and some like rubber wheels and
Mm-hmm.
a big skateboard that I added a deck to, and I made one, and I'm really glad I actually didn't spend the money on that because I've never used it.
Uh-huh. It is
But it
fun.
worked. It was
Yeah.
cool though.
I have to say, Handboards gave me one that I got to paddle around because I've gone to trade shows a lot, and sometimes things are really spread out, so it's really fun
Yes,
inside to go around on the carpet
definitely.
on a land paddle, surf skate.
I think if I lived somewhere with more pavement, I think I probably would
Yeah,
enjoy it. But I've got a lot of dirt and a lot of gravel, so maybe I should look into one wheel instead.
yeah, and I understand your new house has water access.
It does. You'd mentioned the current cardio situation with COVID.
Yeah.
Um, Unfortunately for the husband, he's going to have quite the commute every day. But we decided that if COVID and even just moving forward, any sort of virus or any sort of issue where they're going to close public access to waterways, I don't want to be at the mercy of society to paddle. Like that's my place. That's my thing. And so it changed where we were even looking for houses.
Well, cool. Yeah, cool that you
And
have that. Yeah.
I'm excited. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice.
On a lake. Very fun. Yeah. So, ultra distance, and we were talking about, I don't know that it's truly defined yet, as many things aren't in stand-up paddling, but we have our long races, like Chattajack is happening this year, that are around 32 miles. But then we have these really, really long races, and you have done some of them. You were, which I think is just amazing. You were first over the line. That's male, female, any craft in the Cal 100. So a 100 miler in your OC. Was that last year or 2 years ago?
Yes, that was
Last year.
last May. So just a little over a year now.
Yeah, but I was also following your journey. You had a really big one, which I just watched. Sup Racer had a kind of a documentary about that. So
Mhm. Yeah, it was
talk about
good.
the Yukon event and what your plans were for this year. It's not happening, but still going
So
forward in the future.
yes, there's two Yukon races. There's the Yukon River Quest, which a lot of the stand-up guys do, and that's a half pull, essentially. It's 444 miles, nothing to scoff at. Absolutely beautiful, absolutely gorgeous race, really well run, and that one happens annually.
Mhm.
And then every 2 years, the Yukon 1000 happens, which blows past the finish for the Yukon River Quest and continues on for like 600 more miles. And,
Wow.
and it ends up, we cross through the Arctic Circle, and under I believe the Dawson City Bridge. Shame on me for drawing a blank on that right now. But we finished there after paddling for 1,000 miles, and me and my partner Jen Frasky, we're going to do that in the traditional craft of the race. So something I've found interesting in paddling, as much as I love stand-up and it's what brought me to the sport, I like honoring, I guess, the tradition of certain races.
Mm-hmm.
And as cool as it would be to do the 1,000 on a stand-up, I do find it also neat and humbling in a way for me to like get in a new craft and kind of learn a new craft, the nuances of the paddle stroke in a different paddle craft help you. I think it all helps you. So
Yeah.
paddling outrigger helps my stand-up helps my outrigger, surfing helps my racing, and goodness, what a whitewater stand-up is probably the most helpful thing I've ever learned for reading water and understanding what I'm doing in certain races, as well as open ocean paddling. So Jen and I are going to be doing that in a 2-person marathon canoe. And that also helps with the packing of all the gear because it's completely unsupported. If you connect with the outside world at all during that race, you're disqualified. So, you know, if you call in because you need help or an emergency or anything like that, you're done. You can't get back on the course.
Yeah, the mental toughness those of you who do those things must have is very impressive to me. And that's, yeah. Chris Parker talked about that, about the, like, it really plays some mind games with you when you're at that point of exhaustion and keep going.
So that's the other main difference with the 1000. For safety, you are required to get off of the water from for 6 hours each night. You're not allowed to keep moving. And if your spot tracker moves before your 6 hours is up, again, you're disqualified. Whereas the MR 340, which Jen did last year, the Yukon River Quest, which Jen also did, where Chris Parker went, which I believe Jim Terrell, Travis Grant, and 2 other people are going to do a big 4-man canoe he just built, which I've been watching.
He built it, which was beautiful.
He built it.
Isn't that gorgeous?
It's so cool. Yeah. I love it. And so I don't believe that one requires stops. And so I'll take the 1,000 miles with required stops so I can sleep.
Yeah, so you don't get delirious.
Yeah, the hallucinations are real. So that's something I'll work myself into. I've got a little thing. I'm going to try this coming up. I think I'm going to do it on the solstice, on summer solstice. I posted it on my athlete page on Facebook and on the Paddle Ninja Facebook, which we'll talk a little bit about later. But I was going to call it the slowpoke paddle, where you paddle 1 mile at the start of every hour for 24 hours. And for the rest of that hour, you do other chores. So it's going to help me unpack my house and get things done. I'm going to set a 24-hour block, and my alarm's going to go off at every hour, and I have to go paddle 1 mile.
The June 22nd or 23rd, or
I believe so.
Yeah,
I think it's the 22nd this year.
Oh, cool. Oh, I love that.
So I get all the daylight to do those things.
Well, I hope you record that one, you know, with your GoPro or whatever.
Definitely. I was inspired. This guy did it running. Okay. So I'll do it because I have water access. I'm going to do it paddling.
Yeah, I've never heard of that, but I love the idea.
In the links, I know I'm not like affiliated with the guy or anything, but his name's Bo Miles, and it's on YouTube. It's a little short documentary called A Mile an Hour. It's really cute. It's inspirational.
Yeah.
It was good.
Good. I look forward to yours. Maybe I can work that out, but I'm not sure. Don't live on the water. Surfing,
you can
we
run.
mentioned. Yeah, surfing was, run, yeah. I could, though, you're right. To find something else to do. Surfing, you said you still have your original surfboard. I think that's so cool.
I do. So right before Corey and I left to live in India for a year, I had saved up enough money to buy my first SUP surfboard. I had never surfed. I had gotten into stand-up paddle racing, and everybody just kept telling me that if I learned how to SUP surf, my balance would get so much better, and I would understand the punching out and surfing in for certain races like the Carolina Cup, and especially later on PPG, and at the time it was BOP, which I was aspiring to even go enter those races. And everybody just told me it was going to be so great. So I saved up and I bought the 8.6 Hobie Chuck Patterson Torque, and I still own it to this day. I actually had Chuck sign it the last time he was in North Carolina just for funsies. And it traveled around the entire world with me. We went, it surfed in the Maldives, and in India, and in Sri Lanka, and in Thailand, and in Fiji, and then in Hawaii, and then in California.
Wow.
And now it
Lucky
lives on
board.
a wall.
I want to go those places.
It's busted. It is a busted board now.
But it's a keeper anyway. Well, you kind of glossed over quickly there the year in India, and I met you before you did that and was just so impressed that you went off to do that. And, I'm sure we could talk the whole time about India, but I know we talked about like some positives and some negatives there. So just briefly, maybe more about the positive, we'll be happy, but because I think that's a really neat story. But your time in India.
So I had gotten over there, and at the time, I was following the WPA point system. So the World Paddle Association had a point system. I was new to the
Hmm.
sport, and I thought it was a really cool
Me
point
too.
system. And um, they, I got the alert that I had enough points to go to the WPA World Championships in Cabo San Lucas that year.
Hmm.
And I was beside myself. I was so happy. But alas, I would be in India. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? I can't train. And I found this group called the Surfing Swamis, and they carried NSP paddleboards. And so they were able to get me a Coco Mat race board, and I flew down and I actually lived in their surfing ashram. So their Hare Krishna at their Hare Krishna ashram. They wake up every morning at like 4 a.m. They do the chanting, they do the yoga, and then as their morning, kind of like their divination, they go out and they surf. That's their study. So instead of studying books, or they still do scriptures, but their activity to kind of unify the mind and the body is surfing.
Love it.
They were the greatest group of guys, and they were open. They opened the ashram to kids in the area, and that's how I met Tanvi. So Tanvi was a member of the ashram when I was there, and she wanted to be a pro, like water woman, surfer, paddler, etc. And everybody in India just kept telling her that she couldn't do that because she was a girl. And she said, there's a girl right there, and that does what I want to do. So what do you mean girls don't do this? I'm looking at one. And I thought that was great. So she marched home and she told her parents what she wanted to be. And they said, oh no, so what if you go out in the sun? And so over there, the more you're out in the sun, the darker your skin turns. And it's the darker your skin in India, it's a bad,
Caste
apparently.
system, almost. Yeah.
They're like, oh, well, if you're working outside, it means you're a laborer. So they said, well, who's going to marry you? And she looked right at her dad and said, I'm going to marry a surfer. And I was like, boom. So I thought that was like, that took cojones right there.
But so inspirational and so in some ways shocking. You know, we live in the United States and first world countries. We don't hear that's still, an issue. Thing, but so much. And then she went to ISAs and she represented India as a female, which is just so cool. So it's so awesome that she met you. You were the inspiration, and that we have a surfing girl in India. I checked her Instagram, and that's her persona, and that's how she presents herself as a water woman.
Yeah, she did a TED Talk last year. I think her being there in India just as a role model for the next generation is absolutely huge. And she's one of the bravest people I know to go against her cultural conventions so much like that. So that was the positives. And so I left my NSP board there for her and the guys. Like, I just left it at the ashram for them to use when I left. I sure as heck wasn't going to fly that back anyway. So, I mean, I'm not, I guess, I'm nice, but, but then at the end of our trip, or the end of the year abroad, I had a bad experience too, which we won't focus on, but I did wind up with an internet con man in North India. And his name is Shaukat Sakand, by the way. Yeah. And if anyone ever gets a message from that guy, just click ignore and walk away. So apparently for over a decade, he's been luring women in sports over there because he thinks he can scare them. He never met me, mofo. Anyway.
Don't underestimate April.
Do not even try. So I Googled him after I had already had the 4 Hobie inflatables sent up to him. And I found this website that said, beware, Shaukat Sakand, he's a con man. And like literally, like when you see you're getting pulled over, like you're just boom, like you just feel like this sudden rush of adrenaline. I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I gotten myself into? I'm screwed. And so I was already kind of on the I tried to play offense instead of
Yeah.
defense at that point. I was like, okay, this guy is going to try to take all 4 of my inflatables plus as much money as he can get out of me and then send me on my way, because that's what I had read he did. He would just take the boards, say that he could import them, then say that he owed all this money to the government, take your money, keep the
Mm.
equipment, and then you'd have to fly back. So I just kind of, I guess, played along for a couple of days, and then I called a cab. I actually, his right-hand man thought I was really cute. And this is really funny. He's like, Madame, you are looking. And I was like, looking at what? He goes, no, you are looking. And he thought I was pretty. And I said, well, you can be my hero. And I said, call me a cab at 1 a.m. And he did. And a cab came, and I loaded up all my gear, and I escaped in the middle of the night. And then I got to
Wow.
this other town, and I switched cabs just in case they had known that cab. And I got myself, and I found a friend who was doing yoga up in Dharamshala, and I hid out there and laid low for a couple days until it all blew over. But me and Sean Douglas over at Hobie, we have some really good, now that it's behind us, we laugh
Yeah.
about that a lot.
Yeah. But still, we'll call it an adventure, but that's pretty scary, and I'm glad it all worked out okay. And you even got your boards.
I kept all my boards and all my money.
Yeah, April. Very impressive. So you did from India fly, because I was there too, to Mexico for that WPA championship that we qualified for.
Hey!
But,
I was so excited. I flew all the way from India.
yeah. It's so funny, the, early stuff that we were in on, and, we're still organizing our sport, and bless everybody who's put energy into it. I have
Yes,
gratitude for anybody, even if you might not agree with all the different, it's a lot of work to put together these series and everything. And so we
it
don't have them all
is.
coordinated yet, but I think I saw somebody from the APP is on this. Well, bless you guys. We need you. I don't think, once in a while people say there's too many people in stand-up paddling. I'm like, are you kidding? We need everybody who has any willingness to work at it. And
I agree.
you've been a leader on the athlete side. I know that there's been, some attempts to organize athletes, to organize the racing, to kind of bring us all together. And, we're still working at all that. And I have appreciation for anybody who's willing to. If anybody's on any of these calls and wants to work on parts of it, we'd love you to.
Oh, I know. Putting together an event, it's a thankless job. I've been involved in numerous events and numerous series, and I do feel like that. I wish it wasn't thankless, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe that would incentivize. But that just more kudos to the people who are putting on events and running them, because they know, like, they're doing it for the love of the sport.
Yeah.
And so what drives me nuts is when people go to these events and they give the organizers kind of a hard time, where they
Mm-hmm.
say, I don't know. So
Yeah.
I do hope that we can, as a sport, kind of get a really cohesive structure one day.
Yeah.
I love that the APP World Tour exists for invite-only pros. I do think that that's something so cool to aspire to. Because when I started paddling, I didn't think I would ever be invited. I never thought that was something I would make it to. And this year, not only did I make it, but I wound up second on the tour. And I about pooped my pants. That was really cool. So I didn't
And I
anticipate
also
that.
love that they have both sup surfing and sup racing, which it's hard,
Yes.
especially for you guys who are in sup surf contests. There just does not seem to be enough of those. And
Yes.
that although they don't do it every time, that they do that technical wave racing, which again, I'm from California, and my friends are always looking for that. And there aren't that many left. So it's great that they're still
Well,
having those.
North Carolina definitely still has a stronghold. We have the Carolina Cup, usually in the spring,
Yep.
which will be held in the fall this year, where regularly is the Surf to Sound race in November. Both amazing events. And the Carolina Pro-Am, which was the Sup Surf Pro-Am before it switched hands. Those events are still there. We have a surfing event right before the following weekend is the big racing
that's
event.
another
So I think that's one of the last ones left outside of the APP. It would be cool, I guess, if that was an APP event one day. because that's probably still one of the bigger races. The one thing I guess I would like to see out of the APP after being on that for 1 year, for doing it for a year, was the races were all pretty much the same. Whereas I would think that you would want to diversify the style, like have one that was more surf. So like the New York race was probably the most exciting because it was sprints in and out of the surf with a buoy turn course, and then the Hudson was like victory at sea, awesome. So I liked that. So that was the event where I shined because that's the conditions that I like to work with. All three other events were very flat and or very short, and that's cool, but maybe a whitewater event for like Yucca, Satao, and Fiona Wild, like they would really come alive in the whitewater. And then maybe a big, I know this year it got canceled with everything going on, but the APP doing a downwind race, so they were going to include that this year. So that again, just start diversifying to make a real comprehensive world tour.
And I think
awesome.
Diversification is such an interesting point, and I'm hearing lots of directions as we grow. I mean, I think it's amazing that you pros are asked to be good at all those things, because that's kind of crazy. You know, if you were a track star, unless you're a decathlete or something, you don't do everything. And you guys are asked to do absolutely everything, sprinting and marathoning and downwinding and have, you know, both technical and distance and da-da-da. So, but we have, I mean, I've heard some of the pros say, hey, I've figured out what I like and what I'm good at, and I'm going to focus on that. And I'm a sprinter, so I'm going to focus on sprint races. But again, we're not totally organized. And yeah, we mentioned APP, but there's lots of other, I've never been over to Europe, but they have a lot of great races going on in Europe. And then there's a lot of great races around the US that aren't necessarily, there's a lot of nice little leagues in the Midwest and the Southeast, and, you know, lots of good stuff happening. We haven't kept, I mean, I really appreciate those like Carolina Cup that have managed to stick with it for 10 years. That's a major thing. Tahoe Nalu is one in Tahoe that's 10 years old. Was one of the really early ones. Their first picture, everybody's on like a surfboard or a tandem board. It was like pre-race boards. But diversification will be interesting as we grow to see that, you know, again, you athletes who can do everything, totally amazing. But at some point, you know, and what we've even seen some of it, you know, some people are really good at downwinding, whether they live at that or that's their skill set. But you guys do everything, which is really pretty awesome at this point. So I think that's a really good point. I'd never thought about that a tour, it'd be great if they offer everything.
Yeah, but I mean, there's still room for you to win at the event that you're the most awesome at. Like, so if it's your choice to focus on one discipline or one style of water, then that's your choice. So I mean, you can't be upset. And I guess that's the thing. I mean, you have to set your ego aside, and that's usually my big message. Like, go do things that you're bad at and have a blast, man.
There you go.
That's what, I don't know. I entered my first race from a paddle backwards, and I didn't even finish. And look at me now. I just think more people should have that attitude. And I honestly feel like not the pro women, the women on the APP World Tour, everybody is great. But I feel like so when you get to more events in the recreational ranks, a lot of women don't enter races because they say, oh, I don't want to be, or they don't enter subsurf because they say, oh, I don't want to be a first round clown. They don't want to look stupid is what they've said. I've heard numerous women say these things, these negative things like, oh, I don't want to get knocked out in the first round. Oh, I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to make a fool of myself. I don't want to enter that race because what if so-and-so beats me? What if, you know, this... I didn't realize that.
You and I don't have that attitude. I have often gone in races to improve the numbers as we try to grow. So I'm like, I'm in this race. I'm going to get last. I'm not really a pro, but since it's not defined, I sometimes was in that category. Sometimes I'm in my age group. Sometimes, you know, I'm in that. I've been in surf contests, which I really, you know, I learned to regular surf at 40. I learned to sup surf at 50. Not really a surf contest person, but it's fun, right?
So much fun. I entered a scary as hell whitewater freestyle kayak event because they were not going to pay out for these two world-class women, one all the way from New Zealand, came to race, and there were two of them entered. And if they didn't have a third, they weren't going to pay those two girls who were in the hole now for their travel expenses, expecting there was going to be this world-class event that they promised them. And I was like, I'll do it. Just like put all the life jackets all over my body. And they said, I said, okay, so it's freestyle. What do I do? And they said, just sit down, go down the rapid straight where you know to go, and just twirl your paddle in the air. And I did. And I just held my paddle in the air, and I waved, and I did the beauty queen smile, and I twirled my paddle, and everybody, like, you know, it was in the South, so everybody had like a Bud Light in their hand, and they started hooting and screaming, and everybody loved it. Nobody cared that I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And then those two girls got their money, so I was happy.
And I think we should encourage more to take that route, especially as we're trying to grow the sport and, you know, the women's side of it and everything. Absolutely. So through this journey, you have learned so much. And I know you said you're even working on some degrees or certifications. Not degrees. Well, you already have degrees. I'm not paying to go back to school. I'm over that. I have a master's degree, and that is, I'm done. I'm not paying the institutions any more money to tell me that I know what I know, because I know what I know, and I'm not paying to know. Well, I know you know a lot, but you're getting certifications in a few areas. And recently, a new platform was launched with 404 people, and I don't know if it's beyond, but definitely you and Danny, and you're wearing Puakea.
Those guys.
Those guys. Called Paddle Ninja. So tell us about, well, I think of you as just one of those great shares of information. You guys, if you don't follow April, she does her, you know, Tuesday tips and Wednesday wisdom, and it's just very giving. And as a couple people said, you answer questions all the time when you're asked, and probably longer answers than they even expected, right?
Yeah.
That's so good. But you do have you're a wealth of information. So talk a little bit about this new launch and the coaching side of things.
I will. But real quick, people email me questions all the time. My husband's like, what did you do today? I was like, answered emails. He's like, for what? And he'll read my answers. I write people back a novel. They just ask me something like, which paddle do I choose? And I give them like a 2-page analysis. He's like, April, you're not getting paid. Yeah. Like, he's like, you're not getting paid to write these emails. Stop it. Like, I'm like, no. And I just want to be giving, and I want to give people as much as I don't know, as they need. And I guess that was part of the Paddle Ninja launch, is because I do answer so many questions, and I do, you know, give so much information in emails, and I give nutritional advice and strength training advice. So I am working on my certified strength and conditioning coach certification. That is one. I guess I'll pay for the certification, even though I can already answer all the questions in the book. But so I have the thing next to my name, so people trust me. I'll do it. And the nutrition certification, just to make it official, to say that I know what I know. So Paddle Ninja is a way for me to give this information and also have enough money to maintain myself as a paddler. Because I don't know if you knew that female athletes don't make a lot of money. So this is my entrepreneurial spirit coming out. And, you know, because my Wednesday wisdoms, I'm always saying, follow your dreams, go for your goals. You know, if you want something, you can make it happen, right? And I'm not ready to give
your own advice.
Yes, and I'm not ready to give up on that yet. And, you know, so as it stands, if I can go on APP tour again when they have it, because I got second on the tour. So in my mind, I'm essentially, those funds will go into the next year. But I needed a little bit of an advance. Like when I went to London, I had to win. I got my first ever second in the Carolina Cup. I'd won some money from the Carolina Pro-Am, which is that sup surf competition that's the weekend before the Carolina Cup. And then Salt Life, thanks, my major sponsor, pretty much my only like monetary sponsor, and the most awesome clothing. By the way, tangent, now that I'm back in the South, I understand why I wear Salt Life all the time. It is hot here, and their clothes are the best. But without the funding from that, I wouldn't have even been able to make it on the world tour. And so I do understand that I'm not always going to have an amazing year and wind up second on tour and win all that money to cover the cost to travel and do these races, and also have a little bit of money for, you know, utilities, food on the table, all this other stuff. So I was like, okay, what can I do to use my knowledge and share this with people and actually try to make some sort of viable living? And that's how Paddle Ninja was born. So I had talked to Danny and Johnny Puakea about my friend's online platform. And so a buddy here in North Carolina had made an online training platform. And it was a way for us to deliver training plans that we're already delivering to people and make it easier on us instead of having Excel spreadsheets and keeping up. And it's automatic monthly. And so they loved the idea. And Johnny was already working with Paulo down in Miami, and he wanted to do more clinics and online bookings for that. And the four of us just came together and brainstormed, and that's kind of just how it was born. And so now Paddle Ninja it's live. We have a couple
of
website,
right? .com?
Yes.
Paddleninja.com.
Yep. Okay. Paddleninja.com, and there's a couple of different training plans to choose from right now. Those are going to just build in the future. We're still on the early bird pricing right now, I believe, where you're going to get that first month for free, and then you're locked in for life. As long as you don't unsubscribe, you're locked in at, I think, $48 a month for life. And we're going to add nutrition, we're going to add strength, we're going to add more training plans. So if you get now, like, you're going to get all of that later for the same price that it is right now. Whereas, you know, later the price will go up as we start adding all that extra cool stuff. But right now there is the forum. So all those emails that I answered for the last like 5 years, now those are going to be in the forum. So this is part of my business now. So.
Yeah, very, very cool. Well, I want to throw a couple of questions out. Erin Atkins wants to know if there's any books read or people that you follow to stay current on performance and mindset. I think of you as the person that you follow, but I'm sure you're well read. So any suggestions?
No, definitely. Marcus and Magnus on Coaching Podcast is amazing. And then Brad Stolberg and Steve Magnus also just came out with another podcast called The Growth Equation, and I subscribe to their Peak Performance newsletter. It is an amazing newsletter. It comes out a couple times a month. Just really, really great information with additional. I also have a newsletter, and a lot of times I do share things from, I kind of condense everything I'm collecting about the internet into my newsletter as well. And
how do we sign up for your newsletter? What's the best way to sign up for that?
If you go to my website, aprilzilg.com, there on the right-hand side is a thing. It says, "Do you like what you see? Sign up for my newsletter."
Okay.
And I send that out pretty irregularly. But I'll have
busy life.
But I'll have like little challenges. The mile an hour paddle I'm going to be doing is up in that, and I keep people kind of just informed about any expeditions I'm doing, and I also share coupon codes and sales from my sponsors and opportunities for free swag and cool stuff like that. So kind of like little perks and little exclusives. But where were we? Oh,
good stuff.
Books.
You were just recommending
those
are good. And so podcasts, you're going to give me all these links, and I will post them on the Facebook page if you don't mind.
Definitely. So if she has not checked out yet, go on my website and in the search on my blog, type in top 9. So every year when people do their top 9 pictures on Instagram, I just do my top 9 books, because I read between like 30 and 90 books every year, and I pick my top 9 books that I loved from that year, and kind of just write a little synopsis about what I got from them. That being said, we're all very different people. We all kind of live in our own reality. We're all born with, you know, different tendencies, and then we're all nurtured differently. So what you get out of a book might not be what I got out of it. So I do a brief synopsis, but, you know, kind of to pique your interest, but so much good stuff. Like if you're looking for books on being a female athlete, there's Roar by Stacey Sims. And then if you're trying to, by the way, if you're a female and you're taking birth control and you're trying to be an athlete, it's a really bad idea. You should read the Period Repair Manual. And I forget the author of that one. It's a big pink book. I wish I had read that when I was like 14 years old. It was life altering. Whether you're 14 or 49 or 69, honestly, it recommends supplements, to get everything balanced naturally, and how to do family planning naturally if you need that sort of thing. And I tell you, that was one thing, syncing my hormones with my training and being like birth control hormone free, huge jump. Like I was at a plateau in my performance a couple of years back, and altering that definitely brought my performance up a huge notch. Wow. Followed by jogging and nutrition. So other books, Peak Performance, also by Stuhlberg and Magnus, really great book. Their second one wasn't as great. Oh yeah, I could just just go look those are like the top books that Fantastic. I've read.
Yeah,
that were life altering.
I'll dig up your top 9 and share that one too.
Yeah, I've done that the last 3 years running. So we are up to what is that? So 27 books to pick from right now, right off the bat.
Very cool. Sarah Hewitt, she's Sup Junkie from the UK. She wants to know if you prefer training on your own, with the ladies, or with the guys, or all 3.
Definitely all 3. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, so to speak. So I like training. It depends on which ladies. So I have multiple ladies. So I've got my Surf's Up ladies, and like I wouldn't trade my inlet girls for the world. So out here in North Carolina, we go out and just have a blast, and it's a chill session, and it's just good. We chat, we have fun, we empower each other. I just absolutely love paddling with those women. But then I've got Stephanie Scheidler and some of the more competitive women when we're traveling. I hung out with Yuka in Japan for the day, and paddling with them, it's great, but it's different. Like, we're training partners, right? Like, you get out and when we're not paddling, we eat ice cream and we talk smack. But when we're paddling, it's a more intense paddle than I am paddling with just my friends, like chilling. Yeah. And then when I want to paddle so hard that I'm going to vomit, I try to find some really fast guys to paddle with.
Chase around, yeah. And then the reality is sometimes, like on your lake, you'll be doing a lot of solo training.
I do 90% of my training by myself. I would call it 99% of my training by myself. And that's really hard because you do get faster when you have other people to train with. So.
Yeah. But everybody has different realities. So it's great to see your success in, even though that's, maybe not your ideal, but you make it work. That's for sure.
Thank goodness for GPS and speed.
Yeah, I know. It is pretty fun, and there's always more to learn about all of that for sure. We talked about ultra distance and your tips, and being such a student of the sport. Putting it all together and being a leader, and you said some things. I think we had some really good ideas about where we might go, but in getting the sport organized. Any other thoughts about, sorry, I'm throwing this one at you without telling you, just how we bring it together, how we appreciate what other people are doing, but also, again, the diversity. What's wonderful about stand-up paddleboarding and all the ways to enjoy it is also what makes it complicated sometimes and hard to balance. You definitely have seen this, not coming from either originally, that there's that surf side, and then there's that kayak canoe inland side that kind of just have a different viewpoint about what stand-up paddling is in all areas, including our little niche of racing that we've talked about.
I think that this, and I don't actually have an answer how more people can change. I think it's ego. I think there's a lot of egos, and I think we're seeing that kind of in the world at large too. When people are born and raised a certain way with a certain, they assign something a value that isn't true. So let's say sup surfing, you've assigned that the value cool, and maybe you've assigned flat racing as boring or nerdy. You've assigned these values to something in your mind that it's not true. Yeah. And again, there's some current issues at large right now. There's there's entire populations of people who have assigned values to other populations of people that are not true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and we have to put our egos down, and we have to learn how to, like, okay, so maybe I'm not a really good SUP surfer. Like, my event might want SUP surfing, or two events that you think that they're competing in a way, but they're not. Like, certain events don't want to work together, but I don't think our sport is big enough for people to not work together. And then there's these different series of events, and, you know, there'll be a race that conflicts with a race that's in this series, and they wonder why no one came to their event. I'm like, because everybody's following the points in this series that's over here. You guys everybody has to step back and look at the bigger picture, and that takes a huge dose of anti-ego.
Yeah.
And I just, at the end of the day, I can't help but say that's what's holding us back as a sport.
So
and
well put. Yeah.
I don't know how to convey that. And I mean, just the inability to reach out and say, hey, you know what? Like, we're a paddleboard event, and we're on the same weekend as your paddleboard event, but people actually really might want to go to both because they're close. They could do like a big 1-2. People will hold their ground and keep those two stinking events on the same weekend and divide everybody, instead of, like, sometime in January. And sometimes there's permitting issues, but
yeah,
that's the 6 P's, right? Prior planning prevents piss poor performance. Just call in January and get your shit organized long before the permits are in place or even being asked for. Like I said,
yeah. And I think, you know, we don't want to get too political or anything, but it's such a great analogy that, and I'm hopeful for our world that we're going to have these conversations. Maybe we can start talking. Maybe there's more realization about ego and what it's playing and how your whole, you know, life and, you know, sets you up in a certain way for, like you said, assigning realities to certain things. I hope on many levels in many areas we could do a better job of that. I was going to wrap it up, but a good question right here. Somebody's asking
I saw
you.
That.
Can you see that about?
Yeah,
so they're
Orlando.
not able to, can't get on the water yet. What can I do for training?
I think I see it.
Yeah.
Number one, your cardio replacement. So if you can't get on the water at all, so if you can't go, like, swimming would be number one if somehow you could swim but not paddle. I don't know how that would work. Number two, running and cycling. So replace your current paddling workouts with cardio. Follow the plan just as if it was the paddle workout. So if it has you doing 6 by 4 minute intervals, do that running or do that cycling. I had a client in the Ninja, he had pulled a tendon in his hand, so a lot of gym exercises and stuff were out. And so there's recumbent bike too if he needed to sit down for that. And then I am a huge believer, there's this banded workout system, and it's called crossover symmetry. And these guys did their research. People comment on my shoulders like everywhere I go. It's because I do the crossover symmetry system every day. And so if you can't get on the water right now for training, you are going to do your cardio as written in your current paddle programming. Hopefully that program is from paddleninja.com. You're going to do your cardio in your current program, and then you're going to supplement that. You're going to warm up before you do that cardio with the iron scap, no, not the iron scap, the shoulder activation protocol from Crossover Symmetry. And now if you are broke as a joke, they're not cheap bands. I love them to death. You can use my code April15 for like 15% off, and we'll share that link after this as well. But just go to friggin' like Dick's Sporting Goods or something, or get a big rubber band. Do their protocol. Google search crossover symmetry shoulder activation and just do the exercises. I don't care if you buy the bands. Just do them, because I don't want you to hurt yourself when you get back on the water. If you can't get on the water right now, do that protocol.
Shoulder activation. Yeah.
Yeah. Crossover symmetry. shoulder activation, do it 3 times through at least 3 times a week. And that is going to keep your shoulders balanced. It might, and if you don't do it now, you might even be better at paddling when you get back to it because of that system. Just saying.
There's some advice.
I'm a huge believer. And I know we were trying to wrap this up, but, you know, we talked about it yesterday, and we had mentioned, I was like, I want to tell everybody to sign up for Paddle Ninja or go buy crossover symmetry bands or something like that. But, you know, for the last 10 years, the reason I know everything I know about training and racing and nutrition and the physiology of paddling and biomechanics is because I do not have a lot of money traditionally. And so it was, hey, you know, I could spend a couple $100 on a nutrition plan from somebody else, or it'll take more time, or I can pay for a nutrition course or certification. And so I spend the same amount of money as I would have if I bought a nutrition plan, but now I understand how to do it myself. And the same with strength training. I could have bought strength training plans or, you know, paid to work with a trainer, or I could read, 50 different books about strength training and figure it out myself, because that's the only thing I was good at in high school. It wasn't the sports things. So, you know, it's slightly unfortunate because I do think that I've just finally put all those puzzle pieces together, and I'm in my mid-30s, and I think I might start slowing down soon. I don't know. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'm just going to get faster. So, you know, it's a double-edged sword where I wanted to invest in myself, as if I was going to spend the money, I wanted those skills. But then, you know, time is also a factor. So maybe some of the things I probably should have sucked it up and seen what I could have done when I was in my 20s. I don't know. But that being said, you know, so if I want to share as much knowledge as humanly possible so that other people who are in my situation when I was in my 20s, other people who can't afford training and nutrition, like just, you know, anytime, honestly, reach out to me. I'm here. I will recommend you 20 different books. I will not ignore your email if you're not a Paddle Ninja member. I will give you everything I've got. I want more women in the sport. I want more men in the sport. I want more people in the sport. I meet people every day that if they had enough money to be in this sport, they would probably kick my butt in it. But, you know, it's a cost prohibitive sport. And I don't want cost to be something that prevents people who might be really talented at something, you know?
Well, yeah. And you're so generous and authentic about all of that. But know that that's great to offer, that some people may learn on their own, but not everybody has the drive that you do, or is going to read 30 to 80 books a year. So we so appreciate that people like you are willing to share and are setting up these platforms. It's a gift you are giving to people who are looking for help like this. As Christy says from Canada, knowledge is power. Christy. Love you, girl. Your growth in the sport's inspiring. And then we also have to acknowledge, it already went by, but our buddy John Hadley, he wants to know your favorite race that allows pets.
Oh, man. Bodega Bay.
Yeah.
That, without a doubt. There was no question ever. I know. I couldn't believe Hadley kicked my butt in that pet on board race. And him and his goat weighed like a gazillion times more than me and my boxer. He put off a wake so big. That's why I didn't beat him, by the way. He should have been disqualified for throwing wake. It was, I've never seen a paddleboard put off something that big. You're supposed to ride the wake, right? That was gnarly.
Oh, so fun. So fun. Well, April,
good times.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I think we're probably out of time, huh? I'll talk forever.
Me too. Great to talk with you. You have so much to share, so many great experiences. Thank you for your time. We're going to do some follow-up. Oh, John saying it's the only way I can beat you. Yeah. And I think is Orlando Mack. I don't know if is that Stacy Mack, maybe?
No.
She's saying you're the best coach. I don't know people's Instagram names still. I swear I need to study. I
think Orlando's down in Panama. If COVID hadn't happened, I was trying to make a trip down there this year. I had big goals for 2020. Yeah. It was a big year for me. And now it is just,
I know, but yeah, hope for the future. Panama, I've been twice surfing, is one of my favorite places, and I look forward to going down there too. Um, so keep that on your list for next year. Definitely want to go. But thank you, April, for your time. Thank you, Sup Connect, for letting us have these. Absolutely enjoy.
Will we see you at Carolina Cup or Chattajack? I am signed up for Chattajack.
Maybe. I'm on the wait list for that one, trying to figure it out.
Okay. I'm doing